Charleston City Council. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilwoman Del Champa.
Here.
Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember Saccharin.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
Councilmember Brady.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Waring. He was on the call for a while previously.
He's here.
He's here. He's waiting.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Seeking.
Here.
Councilmember Shade.
Present.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Appel.
Here.
Councilwoman Jackson.
Here.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. Now, if y'all would like to join us, Councilmember Seekings will lead us in an invocation and pledge allegiance. And I have the flag back behind me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's all join in reflection. Heavenly Father, in these times of great challenge and uncertainty, and in the memory and honor of those who lost their lives in the wake of yesterday's tornadoes, make each of us an instrument of your grace. Weave us into a community showing forth your wisdom and tenderness. Bless us all and our differences and support our courage to stand together. We call on you today to gather us in your divine spirit. Lead us as we lead, protect us and our children, and guide us down that path of truth and justice. In the name of Jesus, let us now put forward and act in the love of God. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
United
States of America
and
and
to the republic
for
which it stands,
stand,
one nation under God,
under God,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
liberty and
Justice
justice
for all.
Thank you very much. So,
Mr. Mayor.
appreciate everyone's efforts regarding our virtual meetings. I do want to be thankful to the council and to our staff and to our citizens for allowing us to continue the work of the city. That's a really important. It's important for us to be able to continue our city's business. Normally, this week, every year, we would have a presentation regarding the remembrance of the Holocaust. And Joe Engel and others would normally join us. He's always such a delight to be around. But if I may, even though he's not with us this year, just read a couple of lines of our normal proclamation that during this upcoming week, we in Charleston remember with sadness that in addition to the 6 million Jews that were murdered as part of the Holocaust, there were 5 million additional folks, for a total of 11 million people were murdered during the Holocaust. And we also remember the resistors and the rescuers and the survivors, including Mr. Engel. So we encourage our citizens to remember the victims of the Holocaust and firmly commit themselves, our citizens, to promote human dignity by confronting intolerance and hate whenever and wherever it occurs. And I invite all citizens of our community to join in the Yom Yahshua Holocaust Remembrance Program, which will be done virtually this year, commemorating the Holocaust. So the week of April 19th, the next week through the 26th, is the week of remembrance in memory of the victims, survivors, rescuers, and liberators of the Holocaust. And I did want to bring that to everyone's attention. So a couple of other announcements, if I may, one of which is in this time where we're asking folks to stay home and stay distance, that the city, some of our staff has worked on a little initiative to help bring people together. And so I think it'll be live tomorrow in addition to our website and a new Facebook page called One Charleston, that we will be bringing together information from throughout our community about recreation that can be done at home, about arts and crafts, about cultural events that are active in our community, like live streaming performances of the symphony, the Charleston Jazz Group, Charleston Stage. So you'll have a one-stop shopping center, so to speak, of resources, not just for assistance to businesses like we've talked about at our meeting the other night, but also cultural events, recreation, how to donate, how to volunteer, all of these things that are going on in our community during this time of coronavirus crisis, and in essence, bringing us together, even though we have to stay apart. So we'll send out an email and a press release, I think tomorrow, but we're dubbing that as One Charleston. And again, it'll be on our website and also on a separate Facebook page. And I want to thank Bethany Dorman from our Recreation Department and the folks at Cultural Affairs and for helping to put all that together.
Mr. Mayor.
Lastly, as a third announcement, and then I'll be glad to open up to any questions y'all may have. Boy, a lot of 2 years worth of preparation now has gone into a big celebration that was supposed to kick off this week at Charlestown Landing. It is our 350th birthday as a city this coming Saturday. There are many people, volunteers in the community, committee members, staff members, but I do want to shout out to Councilmember Shade and to Jonathan Green, who served as the co-chairs of the committee. We will be having a virtual announcement this Saturday from the hall down the street, and we'll be making an announcement, but it'll just be virtual online, not something for folks to come to or anything. But we'll make a small remembrance of our birthday with many more things to come when we're all able to gather and get back together. So Councilmember Shade, do you want to add anything to that little announcement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that recognition, and my appreciation to your staff and all the city staff for helping me with this. But it's going to be a very modest commemoration with some, hopefully we got some church bells that will be rung, maybe a prayer and some readings, that we're going to try to condense this all within an hour's worth, just to mark the day as a day that it is the 350th day that English settlers arrived at Charlestown Landing, what is now called Charlestown Landing. And thank you for your support on all this, and thanks to council for their support on this over the years. So we will continue. This is just a time to mark the date, and then we'll hopefully pick up with our other planned events. If not this year, we'll certainly pick them up next year. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Were there any questions, Councilmember?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
You know, I hope that all of our council can keep in our thoughts and prayers our Charleston County Sheriff's Office, and especially Deputy Officer Jeremy Ledoux, who passed away early Monday morning in West Ashley. I know that it's been a very, very tough time for our brothers and sisters over there at Charleston County, and to Deputy Jeremy Ledoux's family. And my best friend was his roommate at the academy. So it's just a very, very tough time. And I know that we'll be offering support during this time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Griffin.
Councilmember Gregory had a question, Mayor.
Yes, really.
Councilmember Gregory? Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
really not a question, but I like your branding, One Charleston.
Oh.
You know why.
Of course.
I love it. Thank
Yes. A remnant of some campaign, I remember.
I wonder why Councilmember Dudley asked that question.
All right, so next we'll move on to our approval of city council minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I think Councilmember Appel had his hand up.
Oh, Councilmember Appel.
Both of my grandmothers would be severely disappointed if I didn't thank you, Mr. Mayor, for making those very heartfelt comments about Yom HaShoah, the annual commemoration of the Holocaust. And I just want to thank you, not just on my behalf, but if I may dare say on behalf of our Charleston Jewish community. That just is a tremendous thing for the city of Charleston to recognize. And if Joe Engel was here, he would say something witty and clever and funny and have everybody laughing. So I won't even attempt that. But this was really heartfelt, and it just goes to show that, humanity has been through the worst over our history, and we're going through some troubles right now. But we've always found a way to kind of persevere and get through it. And I have no doubt that we'll be able to do that today. But thank you very much, Mayor.
God bless. Thank you. So our approval of city council minutes, we have
Move for approval.
February
Second.
25th and March the 10th. Any additions, deletions, improvements? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Next is our citizens participation period. We did advertise that folks could participate by email, US mail, voicemail, and or register to make remarks. So Jennifer or Vanessa, could I turn it over to y'all?
I think Tracy is going to do this part for us.
Oh, Tracy, thank you very much.
Okay.
Bear with me. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see the comments that came in. If I can find it. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen?
Got it.
Yeah.
I can.
Oops. We only had one submittal come through the portal, and this was the only comment that came in. And then we didn't have anyone sign up for, well, I shouldn't say that. We did have one submittal for the citizen participation list. Thank you, Councilmember Jackson, for testing the site for us. But we only had one comment that was submitted, and you can see that here in front of you.
Yes, thank you. On my speaker comment, I just want to thank the staff for going this extra mile. I think it probably went out a little too late yesterday for people to really catch on to it, but I do intend to advertise that there will be a way to be more interactive going forward. So thanks very much to Tracy and everybody who did this.
Councilmember Griffin?
Did we allow people to submit via other options this time as well, like last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
We did. We allowed people to call and leave a voicemail for comments, as well as leave a voicemail if they wanted to actually do the citizen participation and speak. But I believe Jennifer checked that this morning again, and there were no voicemail messages that were left.
No
That's
emails
correct.
to the clerk either?
I did not receive any, no.
Thank you.
So I might ask all the council members at our next meeting, if y'all don't mind sharing, on your own social media or otherwise, email this, how folks can participate through the different means. I think that would be helpful. So I had allotted 30 minutes for this, and boy, we got it covered. So I guess we'll move along to the resolution affirming the city of Charleston's commitment to the values of equity, fairness, and justice in responding to COVID-19. And that was what that one comment was about. But I would like to share with y'all that the wording that we use came to us from the National League of Cities, with just minor modification for Charleston. And Amber Johnson, our diversity and racial conciliation officer, put that together, and we thank her. And I would like to entertain a motion
Move for
to
approval.
Second.
Second.
approve this. Any discussion?
Yeah, just a question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
At one of our other meetings, I did request that we find out what is going on in our various pockets of poverty, such as Gadsden Green and our other public housing communities. Have we had an opportunity to talk with Don Cameron at all?
Yes, and I asked, I got an email response from him that was not long, but a kind of comprehensive list of what they had done. And I asked Liz Bailey to send that to y'all. Did y'all get it?
Yes, sir.
Anybody remember?
Yeah, I thought we did.
Yeah,
Yes.
I probably missed it, Mayor.
it's probably in your inbox. But
Okay.
a very comprehensive list of outreach flyers that they had put out. And in fact, it was one of the things that I was going to mention in addition to our homelessness efforts that Chris Jordan and Gianna have led, reaching out to those in need in our community, the outreach by the Charleston Housing Authority, the outreach by Jamie Roper to our seniors. So I believe we've really been following the goal of fairness and equity in our response thus far with those kinds of efforts. And
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
yes, sir. Any
Mr.
other
Mayor?
comments or questions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you. I basically just had a word interpretation question. The second to the last whereas that goes right before the therefore, where it says, whereas as a result, the city is committed to centering racial equity and to providing equitable responses. I don't really know what the word centering is supposed to mean there. Maybe it's an art term that I just don't understand as a non-lawyer or something like that, but.
Well, I don't know if it's legalese or not. Again, we did take the lead of the National League of Cities. The way I read that use of the word was kind of like when you say you use, you're going to look through the lenses of equity, that you're committed to centering equity. It kind of, in my mind, kind of meant the same thing, that you just have a certain focus on it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Appel.
Sorry about that. I had my hand up from earlier.
Oh, okay.
We can pass.
Oh, no problem.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
Anyone else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So while we're talking about COVID-19, I did want, just because I'm going to propose we just meet twice this week, tonight and Thursday night. I was going to ask Shannon Scaff to just give us a very brief report on COVID-19 efforts in the city. Shannon?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Here are the numbers as of 4 p.m. According to Johns Hopkins, there are 1,978,769 cases with 125,196 deaths. In the United States, we're looking at 598,670 cases with 25,239 deaths. And then according to DHEC, as of 3:53 today, 3,553 total cases with 97 deaths. In Charleston County, 353 total cases with 2 deaths. And in Berkeley County, 98 cases with 3 deaths. I spoke to some folks from DHEC a little bit earlier. We did have a slight decline in number of cases over the last few days, but they wanted to caution us in, coming to our own conclusions regarding any sort of trends. They expect that to kind of bounce around a little bit, but you'll recall in previous reports, the University of Washington has provided a study on this and provided numbers to DHEC, and the latest, they do this a couple times a week, peak number of cases and to include hospitalizations would be around 30 April. Peak deaths projected would be May 2nd, and that's 16 deaths projected on that date. August 4th projected deaths in the state would be 680 by August 4th. Again, that's the University of Washington that's providing those forecasting numbers to DHEC. Any of your questions? That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Scott? Thank you. Just one other COVID-19 item that I don't believe I've shared with council, and I certainly feel that I should, is, and I know we'll be exploring other issues at our budget workshop, but I did want y'all to know that we did proceed to implement a 3-month hiring freeze so that if any positions had been advertised and interviewed already, we are proceeding with those hirings. But beyond that, at this point, for the next 3 months, we've already put in effect a freeze on hiring new employees, with the caveat that on a case-by-case basis, if there was some critical operation personnel, and this does not apply to sworn police and fire positions. So other than police and fire and people who have already made it through an interview, currently we're not hiring in response to COVID-19. And I don't think I had shared that with y'all before, so I wanted to let y'all know that. All right, so we're gonna move right along to our committee reports. First up is Committee on Community Development, Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and council members, development was held on April 13th at 2 p.m. And we had 2 items listed first, which was the update on the stimulus package, small business loans. And that was explained by Meg, and she was giving us some information, also giving us some information on some new development that was being funding with funding sources. I think it was Pen Pal, I believe it was.
PayPal.
I think that's PayPal that was coming up with some information that a person could go and apply for a loan there to help small businesses. Then number B, we had the discussion of a proposal to support the city's small businesses community. And I also had our city attorney to come up and explain to us about certain aspect on what we could do. Also had our chief financial officer explain to us that right now we are strapped. We don't have any money in the budget to land or any money to do anything right now, so far as our budget is concerned. And then we also had a discussion that our city attorney also explained to us that if we wanted to add anything to agenda, we needed 2/3 votes. So we had a additional topic add to our discussion pertaining to small business loan coming from the, I think that it was made by Councilmember Jackson, I believe, Councilwoman Jackson, that they received something from Aiken. It was sent out to all the council members to read, but they received it only an hour before the meeting. So we added that to agenda because we had the 2/3 votes. And we discussed that. It was just a discussion, but nothing was approved there. So those are the items that we had on community development.
Right. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Griffin.
So y'all didn't take any official votes or anything? It was for discussion only?
No votes was taken at all. Everything was a discussion and for information purposes.
And numbers I would like to add, and it's on Post Courier already, are starting to come in. There's in the state of South Carolina, as of today, they've reported $2.7 billion of loan approvals to over 14,000 companies in the state. So I admit, we talked about this yesterday. It was off to a very rocky and choppy start, but and hopefully they're moving in a better direction and getting some things going. All right, so next is our Committee on Public Works and Utilities, Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope I can be heard now. The Committee on Public Works and Utilities met on yesterday, and as you see on your agenda, the acceptance and dedication of rights-of-way was moved and approved unanimously, and that's my motion as far as the dedication.
Okay.
We accept the dedication as shown on your agenda.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Seekins is the second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have
And on
it.
the Stormwater Management Department update, BI or B1, the approval of the fee amendment number 5 to Weston and Sampson engineers for not quite $90,000, $89,866 to design and permitting of culverts on Glen McConnell Parkway. That was also approved unanimously, as well as B2. And Mr. Mayor, if you will, would you please, oh, well, wait a minute. No, this isn't what I thought was. B2 also passed unanimously, but I really want to go back before I get a motion on B1 and 2. Mr. Mayor, could you touch base on the importance of the collaboration that took place for those dedication of the quitclaim deeds for Westcott Court and Dowdy Street and Earhart Street, the significance for Medical University and Roper St. Francis, etc.?
All right. So thank you for bringing that up. Dowdy Street is right in the midst of the medical district. And when I first became mayor 5 years ago, I was invited to this meeting of all the hospitals, MUSC, Roper, and St. Francis, and the Veterans Administration. And I guess a year or two before, they had formed this district effort, the hospitals in the city together. And the first thing that they wanted to do was create a park-like greenway space using Dowdy Street, the actual street, the right-of-way, which we had to, it was a state street. And so we had to go to the trouble and ask for it to become a city street so that we could then give permission to the hospital district to form this gathering space. It's really quite nice. They have food trucks come, and it's really a park. They spent some money improvements on it when we first gave them the temporary right to use the street. And now with this more permanent right, they're going to invest some more money and make it truly park-like. But it's all planned to continue to have enough access in case a fire truck or emergency personnel need to utilize the space they can get through. So anyway, I just was sharing last night how it seemed like a simple dedication, but really it was a big effort that's a benefit to the employees, and boy, do they deserve it right now, those healthcare workers over there, to have a little spot where they can enjoy themselves from time to time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, because that's really important. That's going to open up the quality of life for the patients, students, as well as thousands of employees over there to create quality green space over there. So thank you for all your efforts on that, Mr. Mayor, helping to pull that together.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think,
Gregory?
Yeah, just wanted to add, while I do think that it will be great for the medical community, I think it's also going to be great for Councilman Saccharin and my district, District 6 and 3, because they will also have the opportunity to enjoy that park. Thank you.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you for those comments. Now, I ask for a motion to approve B1, items B1 and B2, please. It passed unanimous.
Second.
In the community.
I'll second.
Great.
Any discussion on that? And I'll note, as Councilmember Shealy pointed out, even though it's in his district, that first project is of great benefit to everybody in the Church Creek drainage basin, and that one of the two areas where we're buying flood-prone properties, one is in Shadow Moss and one on James Island, part 2. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
And the last item was B3, which was a pretty good discussion on small projects. Now, most on council can remember going back at least a month ago, we asked all council members to get to Mr. Fountain and his team any small drainage projects that fit this category, and so all districts will be represented. We have limited amounts of monies, obviously, so before the money runs out, hopefully we'll get good quality projects that all districts can say hopefully they participated in. So it is not a race to the front of the line, but certainly the money will run out. So if you have projects that you're thinking about, please contact Mr. Fountain and his team, or me, and the stormwater department. So, Mr. Fountain, can you explain? He has his report coming up, but can you explain the smaller projects that you shared with the committee on yesterday?
Yes, I'd be happy to, Council Waring. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the discussion on this item sort of centered around, we have a $1 million budget allocation for small project work. We've been working on the Public Works Utilities Committee under Chairman Waring's guidance there, and the mayor's input for how do we want to prioritize and allocate funding from that sort of pot of money into actual individual projects. I think we've had some good discussions on that. Councilman Waring just brought up requesting if there's any additional input that needs to be provided from other council members about projects that may be outstanding in their districts that we're not aware of, or that we haven't accurately captured kind of on our pending project sheet. But we sort of discussed at the meeting yesterday that one of the things just not to be lost in that discussion is that there's a number of projects that we've been working on for the last few years that are sort of on hold pending allocation of some of these funds, and that we wanted to note many of these projects are relatively low cost, immediate impact projects. I think the clerk did pass out some of the information with some color coding on it that we had added in. These were these green coded projects. There's only $130,000 of allocation, and they included projects like the Emerald Forest at Arrowwind drainage box installation, the Mueller Drive drainage improvement rear yard project, the Pawpaw Street drainage improvement of a swale, a rear yard swale, the Sherwood Forest drainage improvement, where we've done actually quite a bit of easement acquisition and work with the Housing Authority for a preparation to install a drainage system in that area, and then Weems Court drainage improvement, where we've seen some failure of a system and have a replacement project in hand. And these are all items where we have bids in hand. We know how much the work is going to cost, and the contractors are literally just kind of waiting for that approval of funding. We did discuss these projects at committee and say, is there interest in moving these projects forward, just to kind of keep from holding things up while we figure out what to do with the remainder of the allocation. And it is certainly very important for us to allocate the money appropriately. So as Councilman Waring pointed out, we don't just have a race to the front of the line of where this money gets spent. But many of these projects are ones we've been working on for a couple of years, and we just kind of want to get them closed out and finished as we're kind of contemplating what we do with money moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fountain. But there were like, I think 3 or 4 or 5 projects that you
yeah, and those were the Emerald Forest to Arrowwind drainage box installation, the Mueller drainage improvement, the Pawpaw Street drainage improvement, the Sherwood Forest drainage improvement, and the Weems Court drainage improvement. Those all combined for a total of $130,000 for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different short-term projects there.
Okay, so yeah, as you can see, our staff is doing things in a real frugal way, and you see that those dollars right now are being spent in a diverse way across the city. So, but again, I have the feeling out there that there may be 1 or 2 projects that members of the committee doesn't know about, members of our staff may not be as up on, and you may know that needs to be done in the various districts around the city. So thank you for your extra input on that. And with that was pretty much the extent of my report.
Good. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Waring and Mayor. I'm listening to the discussion, and I appreciate that you all tolerate that I listen into Public Works fairly regularly. I think maybe because we're talking about this to a bigger audience of citizens, that we could give a little more clarification or examples of the things that are already on this list. My observation and my listening in is that most of the things that have ended up on the small projects list from the stormwater crews who are out trying to maintain and figure out the drainage systems. These are mostly items that we know have caused very specific problems that we've got a fairly timely way of fixing. They're not going to be part of huge improvement projects like we all are watching the Doo-Wop Basin and now waiting excitedly for the Wamba Basin study, and we've done the inventory of James Island basins. We've got Barbary Woods and things like that. So I just think that it would be respectful of us to identify that this little list really is just the things that we know are broken. For example, Rivers Point Row, my understanding was the road was collapsing because a pipe had failed. And so it was pretty much of an immediate need. The other one that's in the works for a problem on off of Secessionville on Harbor Sun that supports the outfall for the Westchester neighborhood, Councilmember Gregory's District 6, and then goes into Harbor Sun for District 12. That literally is an eroding canal that is the major outfall for those older neighborhoods going into the newer neighborhoods. So it's not anything that we've been talking about in some sort of, long range planning framework. And I just think it's helpful for us to be able to put it into that perspective. I also know that there's still a priority tool, correct, Mr. Fountain, that's underway and expected to come forward in the next few months that would really help us be able to evaluate some of the things that are less obvious to be working on.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. We're fixing things that we know have been problematic. And I think we're just 2 or 3 months away. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fountain, on the prioritization tool that's being developed. I think you're right on that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, duly noted. And thank you, Councilmember Waring, for that report. Next, our Committee on Traffic and Transportation, Councilmember Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee on Traffic and Transportation met via Zoom today at 2 o'clock. Everybody was on time. Thank you. We took up 3 matters that need approval of this council. The first was an ordinance to amend 3177 A and B, which allows both TNCs and cab drivers to use various means to get background checks that are required. That passed unanimously. The second is the approval of a LOI with the county regarding Avondale and a coordinated effort to make sure that the Charleston County's US 17 roadway project goes smoothly. Mostly it's with Magnolia, where we're going to need some land acquisition and some help. It's revenue neutral to us, but it will take some coordinated effort between the city and the county. That also passed unanimously. And the final thing was the Lockwood Bufane maintenance agreement for approval. For those of you who might remember, we've been working for some time to get a crosswalk and some road improvements at the corner of Lockwood and Bufane. The county is taking the lead on this. It is funded. It is approved. The plans are done. There's going to be some landscaping that'll be required when this project is completed. The landscaping falls to us, and the request was to approve the landscaping plan today. That also passed unanimously. So I would ask approval of this report, and specifically items 3, 4, and 5.
Second. Move for approval.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion from council at large? Councilmember Shade?
Just a big shout out to our director, mayor, and to our police department. A vehicle went through the intersection at Sycamore and St. Andrews Boulevard, I think yesterday at some point during that storm that we had. Totally knocked out the lights at that intersection. It devastated the power box, the utility box that governed the electrical control switches there. I passed those messages on to our Mr. Benjamin and to our police department, and SCDOT actually had jurisdiction over this, and they were going to come out on Thursday to address this very dangerous intersection. And I've been following my emails. They've addressed it. I just want to give a big shout out to Mr. Benjamin and to our chief and our entire police department, and to Tammy Cogswell at Dominion Energy for getting on that project rapidly and addressing that traffic control signal at Sycamore in St. Andrews. Thank you all for a job well done.
Great. All right. Anything else on the committee report? Councilmember Waring and then Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question of Chairman Seekings. Is there any more money left for speed bumps?
So we had a report from Mr. Somerville on the speed bumps today. There is a little bit of money left, and there's some discussion about whether or not that should be used for maintenance, for additional speed bump requests. I think that Mr. Benjamin is on the line if he knows the exact amount of money that's out there, but I will tell you it's not a lot. But yes, there's some. Mr. Benjamin, do you know what the total amount is? I forgot to ask today.
It's about $20,000 that's left. A new speed bump is about $4,000. The main thing we would want to stress, I know you all send us inquiries from citizens who request traffic calming, and we definitely take those inquiries. But our staff do not go out and do a study until we get the prerequisite petitions in, knowing that the neighborhood is also on par with that move, and then with those two combined, bring that to the P&T committee for approval.
And we can get a list for you, Councilmember Waring, at the next meeting if you'd like to know how many applications that meet the requirements are actually pending, which I don't think there are any, but we'll find out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Councilmember Appel, did you have a question or a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give a big thanks to the Traffic and Transportation Committee regarding this Avondale letter of intent regarding the realignment of some roadways over there. This is part of a very exciting project that's been on the books for a long time. This impacts my district, District 11. It impacts Councilmember Shade's district, and also Councilmember Saccharin as well. And this is a very exciting project, and this is a important piece of it. And also, none of this would have been possible without Keith Benjamin's efforts, Eric Pullman's efforts, our legal department papering all of this. It's a complicated transaction. I mean, it's essentially, I mean, I wish I had the visual here to show, but this essentially entails lining up Nicholson in Burns Downs with where, now I'm drawing a blank on the name of that restaurant across the street.
Triangle.
Oh no, this is that steak shop sandwiches.
DB's.
Yeah. That's right. So where that is.
It was originally the Krispy Kreme location.
I remember. I actually remember that. I'm dating myself. But in all seriousness, this is a very exciting project, and it's great that we're continuing to work on very progressive, innovative planning projects with a variety of moving parts, private sector, governmental partners in this, even while we're dealing with this COVID-19 crisis. So I hope a lot more to come on this, but I really encourage folks to take a closer look at what's in the works here for Avondale, and also the US 17 roadway project. There's a lot of exciting work underway, and look forward to continuing this conversation, this work in the future. Thank you.
So thank you on behalf of Mr. Benjamin and Mr. Pullman. It's incredible. Good things come to those who wait, but they've actually worked hard on this. So this project was first envisioned when your district was District 8. So that was over 10 years ago now. And now it looks like we'll actually get some movement. It's much needed. I mean, that will be a game changer for that gateway area of Avondale and of West Ashley. So keep your eyes out and we'll keep encouraging them.
All right, back to Councilmember Waring.
Thank you. I guess this question can go to Councilman Seekings or Appel. Through that alignment, will there be any way to create additional parking over there?
I think that's probably a question, well, maybe Councilmember Appel, but probably for Mr. Benjamin, and we can probably get you all some plans as they unfold for what that all looks like.
That is one of the goals, is that it allows accumulation of a couple of parcels to include part of one of the existing streets.
Right.
And so it creates a bigger footprint. Doesn't guarantee it's going to happen, but it does set the stage for a possibility of a small deck there, or even just a larger surface lot.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
That was part of the motivation behind it all, but it also just makes sense from a traffic point of view and access to our fire station there on Nicholson. So there's multiple benefits.
Great.
So
Thank you.
we need to call the question on approving those three items. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, I think Keith has his hand up.
Come back, Jennifer.
I think Keith Benjamin has his hand up.
Oh,
I'm okay, sir. I'm okay, sir.
okay, great. Terrific. Thank you again for that report. Next up is our Committee on Ways and Means. Councilmember.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We just have one bill up for a second reading.
Move for approval.
Second.
Agreement of number 4 Noonan Street. It's properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now for third reading and ratification. Any
Who
discussion?
was the second? Who was the third, fourth, second reading? I had Councilmember Shade. Who was the second?
Shealy, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, now for third reading and ratification, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And believe it or not, that is the end of the agenda. I did want to ask council, since we had the meeting on Tuesday this week, suggest that we have another meeting on Thursday just to update on the corona crisis. And then we'll go back next week to meeting Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If that is suitable to everyone. Without objection, we'll go ahead and plan on that. And then I did want to just one more time, I started out saying this, but thanking everybody and particularly our staff for being able to continue on, conduct business, important services our city provides, even in the midst of coronavirus crisis tonight. We approved additional equipment for our fire department. We sold properties for affordable housing. We were able to purchase, or at least agree to a contract to potentially purchase some property where we can provide affordable housing, move forward with small drainage projects, transportation improvements like at Lockwood and Bufane Street. So to be able to continue the everyday business during this time of the city, I view as really important. So I just want to thank all of you and for the staff for making all that possible. Anything further to come before council tonight? Councilmember Shealy?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Ms. Herdina if this meeting counts toward the pizza.
No, I think we suspended that offer during this emergency period.
Councilmember Waring?
Believe me, that was the exact same thing I was going to say. I wanted our council to tell us what time it was. So,
For Little Caesars after this, I'll pick it up for you.
Yeah, Little Caesars.
Little Caesars.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's great.
All right. Hearing no further business, we stand adjourned. We'll see y'all Thursday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.